Right now on Retiring Today.
How changing interest rates might affect your retirement, especially when it comes to your income and your investments.
You might be surprised what interest rates can do to your portfolio. That and much more coming up right now on Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm with Loren Merkle, a certified financial planner at Merkle Retirement Planning. And today's show is about interest rates and how they kind of affect your portfolio. And especially we're going to zero in, of course, Loren, on retirement, because retirement is what you specialize in.
Yeah, retirement planning is so much more complex than what it used to be. Oftentimes I tell a story about my grandpa. He retired in the mid-'80s. And he had his Social Security, he took his pension from Ford Motor Company, and he had a little bit of savings, and he traveled around the country for 30 years in his motorhome, and everything seemed great. Wouldn't it be nice if that was how simple retirement decisions are? But one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we receive after we go to these passport classes, people come up to us and want to talk to us. They say, I had no idea that I had to make all of these decisions, and it was so complex.
Okay, so Loren mentioned the passport classes. We'll tell you a little bit more about those in our second and third segments, but the topic of today's show is interest rates. So hang on, we'll make a pretty good case for why you should care about interest rates. But first, let's talk about the interest rate environment, Loren. I think probably people maybe have heard some talk of the fact that they might lower interest rates. Kind of what does that mean?
Which is different. I mean, the Fed has taken a complete 180 from what they were talking about last year, or really what they did last year. Last year, they increased interest rates 4 different times. Last year they were talking about increasing interest rates this year by as much as 3 different times. And then recently they came out and said, wait a minute, we might want to decrease interest rates this year. And the reason we're talking about this is because interest rates can have a direct impact not only on your investments, but also on the income that you receive from your investments as you go through retirement.
So the most kind of real way I think of interest rates personally is maybe like on a loan I've taken, the rate on our mortgage or the rate on a car loan. What kind of rates are we talking about?
Yeah, what we're talking about is the Fed fund rate, which is and this is going to be really technical and boring, so we're not going to focus on this.
Okay.
But technically, it's the bank. Banks loan to different banks, and it's the overnight bank lending rate. The reason that the news is always talking about the Fed funds rate is because it does influence all those other things you're talking about, like the interest rate you pay on your car loans, the interest rate that you pay on your mortgage, really any of the debt interest that may be applicable to you in your situation. The Fed fund rates in some way does influence it.
Okay, so now let's get back into what we do zero in on this show, which is retirement. So why do I care about interest rates if I'm maybe 5-10 years out from retirement or in retirement?
Well, certainly if you still have a mortgage or any debt, it could influence what you pay from a debt standpoint. If your mortgage is not a fixed loan, then it could increase the amount of interest that you pay almost immediately, or certainly the next time it comes up for renewal. If you want to buy a vehicle or a house and you have to take a loan, it could influence that as well. Also, and maybe even more importantly or more applicable to most retirees, is you have this investment portfolio. A portfolio that you have been accumulating, that you have been saving for the last 30 to 40 years. And when interest rates go up, it has an impact on what the markets do, the stock market, the bond market. When the interest rates go down, it also has an effect on what your portfolio does. And in retirement, when your income is at least in part dependent upon your investment portfolio, then it can also have a dramatic impact on the amount of income you receive from your portfolio.
And income is a big piece of the retirement puzzle. So you've kind of zeroed in on 5 really important key components, and you call them the Merkel retirement method. And the first one you cover a lot of times when you sit down with people is that investment one.
Yeah, over the last 20 years, we've been successfully helping people retire. We've boiled down the top concerns and the top things that retirees are looking for into these 5 easy to understand components. In the income one, we specifically put that as number 1 because most people, as they're thinking about transitioning to retirement, the number 1 thing they want to know is where they're going to get their income from. How much income can they receive? And will that income be enough to last when we're considering inflation and the taxes they have to pay on that income for the next 20 to 30 years. Which really makes the investment piece of the Merkle retirement method so important, because retirees derive their income from the investments in a very large way. Sure, they might have some Social Security income, they might have some pension income, but then the investment income is it really determines how their lifestyle is going to play out, not only at point of retirement, but also down the road.
Okay, so investment and income are two of the tiers, or two of the parts, or two of the components of the Merkle retirement method. Also, though, you have to pay taxes. That doesn't go away in retirement.
Taxes don't go away in retirement, but you have more control if you implement effective tax planning. And when we're working, we get our W-2 income, we have very little control. We just pay taxes at our ordinary income rate. But in retirement, if we do planning, now we have different tax buckets. We have this tax bucket that's taxed differently than this tax bucket, and taxed differently than this one. And now we can take a little income from here, a little income from here, a little income from here, and really increase the amount of income you get to spend, the amount of income you get to keep, and decrease the amount that we have to send to Uncle Sam.
And healthcare and legacy planning, also part of a comprehensive retirement plan.
Never has the age 63 and a half been so important. And the reason why is because if you were to go to the individual market and purchase healthcare as a couple, you're probably spending somewhere between $1,800 a month, maybe as high as $2,500 a month. Now, for a lot of retirees, that was more than their mortgage when they were paying a mortgage. So the cost of individual healthcare is extreme and is keeping people from retiring prior to the age of 65. And that's why 63 and a half is so important, because you can have COBRA for 18 months, and many people are retiring at 63 and a half to get the COBRA, and that carries them to 65 when they're eligible for Medicare. So that type of planning is necessary to determine, does retiring prior to 65 work? If so, what does that look like? And then, of course, the long-term care. It is a huge risk. If you need long-term care, it is a big expense. Where's that money going to come from? How does that disrupt your retirement? How does that disrupt your surviving spouse's retirement, or the legacy ambitions that you have as far as transferring what's left to your loved ones and your charities?
Okay, so today's topic is interest rates in your retirement, and you'll see we have a scale in front of us here. And Loren, this side represents the price of bonds, right?
That is correct.
And then that side represents?
That side represents interest rates, the topic of today's show.
Okay, and the correlation between the two?
The correlation between the two. Essentially what happens is there is an inverted relationship between interest rates and the price of bonds. So if we think interest rates are going to go down this year, and that's what we're anticipating because that's what the Fed is telling us, all we have to do is decrease interest rates, and what happens to the price of bonds?
They go up.
They go up. Now, many retirees, I would say most, have a component of their investments in bonds. So if the price of bonds goes up, that means that the yield that they're receiving, or what it's going to cost them to get into those bonds, is more attractive, right? It provides a little bit better yield for them. If the price or interest rates go up, then the price of bonds goes down. And now the yield that you're receiving from bonds is not going to be as compelling as far as using bonds from an income producing type of investment. So how that correlates to the income side. If you want to take out 3%, 4% of your income from a portfolio, what you're receiving from the bond side, if you have 40%, 60% of your portfolio in bonds, as interest rates go up and interest rates go down, that will impact what you're receiving from a big portion of your portfolio, which could impact what you're receiving from an income standpoint. So when we develop income plans, when we do income planning for our families, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an income stream that is very lifestyle dependent instead of bond market, stock market dependent. Because what our families don't want to do is they don't want to have to decrease their lifestyle just because of what the crazy stock market's doing, just because of what the crazy bond market's doing, which can be affected by whatever happens with the interest rates.
Okay, and you have an example in numbers that really walks us through what this could look like.
Yeah, so in this example, we have David. He has a $600,000 IRA, and it is split up in 60% bonds and 40% stocks, which is a very common type of portfolio for somebody who is in retirement or close to retirement. What happens is he sees the stocks appreciate. His stock portfolio, the 40% of his portfolio, has gone up by 10%, what that means is his $240,000, that's 40% he had in stocks, has increased to $264,000. And now as a percentage, he no longer has a 60-40 split between bonds and stocks. Now his percentage is more heavily weighted towards stocks, and bonds is only at 58%, stocks is at 42%. This is important because as we see the bond market go up and down, as we see the stock market go up and down, it's very easy for retirees, pre-retirees investment portfolio to get out of the risk type of allocation they really set it up in. And this is what we saw in 2008. So this portfolio with David now is more risky than what he intended it to be, than what he initially set out, because he has more stocks now than what he has bonds, or a bigger percentage of what he started out with. 2008, when stocks crashed, when bonds crashed, people had no idea they could lose that much money, or they were taking that amount of risk. So when we have conversations about investments, when we have conversations about income, we want to make sure that the amount of risk you're taking with your portfolio is commensurate with your needs in retirement. What are you trying to accomplish? But also with what you feel comfortable with. And that's why we have to stay on top of the portfolio and the dynamics of how these things move, because it can easily get out of the risk allocation you originally set it up in.
Okay, great information. We'll continue our conversation about interest rates in your portfolio when Retiring Today continues.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it. And leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes? That's where we come in. We are Merkle Retirement Planning, your personal retirement planners. From investments to tax reduction strategies, with our Merkle Retirement Method, we can help you reach your retirement goals. You worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary visit, simply contact us today. Merkle Retirement Planning.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm here with Loren Merkle, certified financial planner, and today we're talking about interest rates in your portfolio, your investments, your retirement income. And Loren, it's important because the changing interest rate environment can really change the amount of income retirees are able to use in retirement.
Yeah, not only can it change the amount of income that retirees receive in retirement, which is important enough, right? That alone, we could just stop and talk about that and that's enough. But it can also change the amount of investments that you have from a retirement standpoint as well. So this life savings, this pot of money that you saved over the course of your life, interest rates go up, interest rates go down, it can really impact the amount of your life savings that gets evaporated within the moving dynamic of the stock and bond markets.
Yeah, and we have a scale in front of us, and you kind of showed effectively how interest rates and bond prices kind of have a relationship. When one goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. So we're going to talk a little bit more about when interest rates go up, because this one is probably the most important to retirees.
Well, it's it's certainly impactful, which makes it really important. And we've already lived through this. 2018, interest rates increased 4 different times. Now, most retirees who had money in the market, either the stocks or the bonds, remember 2018 really well because the stock market was crazy, especially fourth quarter and December, but also the bond market was a little haywire as well. Because here's what happened. Interest rates went up 4 different times throughout 2018. And with each time, that made the stock market extremely nervous. And when the stock market gets nervous, what does it do? It goes down most of the time. And that's at least that's what we saw in 2018. So you take the average retiree that have this 60-40 portfolio, 60% is in bonds, 40% is in the stock markets, automatically 40% of their portfolio went down. Now the question is what happens with their bonds? And this is why most retirees default to this split of bonds and stocks, because historically anyway, they're not correlated very closely, which means that they're doing different things given the same economic condition. But what we've seen, at least as a recent trend, and certainly last year, is that they're not necessarily uncorrelated as much as they always have been. So last year, stocks were going down, but also because of the increase in interest rates on 4 different occasions, bond prices also went down, which means that bonds were losing money as well. So the average 60-40 portfolio, stocks were down, bonds were down, leaving with that type of portfolio with about a 6% loss over the course of that year. It impacts people's retirements from an income standpoint as well as their life savings.
And you can really break down kind of what that looks like in real numbers.
Yeah, when we talk about interest rate changes, either up or down, and how that can impact your income, that's a big thing. So what does that really mean? Let's go back to our example with David. He had a $600,000 portfolio. He's in retirement. He needs to take income from that portfolio. Let's say David needed $3,000 a month. But we go through a 2018, interest rates increase on 4 different occasions in 2018. His stock portfolio is down, his bond portfolio is down, and now he's in a conundrum because he needs income from this portfolio. Does he sell his bonds that are down to deliver that income? Does he sell his stocks at a depreciated value to deliver that income? Or does he cut the amount of income he needs to maintain his lifestyle? And what we don't find very often, Molly, are retirees that want to change their income based on what these 2 markets are doing. So when we develop that income plan, it has to be in a way where your income, you can receive whatever income you need and works within your plan and lifestyle, independent of what happens with the stock market and the bond market and the interest rates.
And do you find sometimes that people just say to you, I want to get out of bonds and stocks altogether and just go to the bank, put my money in the bank or under the mattress?
Yeah, we do have that, and that's a realistic temptation. And I can't blame anybody for having that feeling because of what the stock market has done to people, what the bond market has done to people. But if we look at the cash option, at least over the last 10 years, that has also been a way that people have been losing money. If at the banks, what are we getting at the banks? Maybe 1%. Every once in a while, I'll hear somebody getting 2%. Either way, what we're doing when we put too much of our retirement resources in the bank at those rates is we're safely losing money. Because on whatever gains you receive, 1%, 2%, you're paying taxes on those gains at whatever income level you're in, but you're also losing against inflation. The last 40-year inflation average is over 3% per year. So if you're getting 1% at the bank, losing 3% against inflation, against a tax-adjusted return, there's not a whole lot left for you to earn from a return standpoint. So having too much at the bank right now is not necessarily a great thing. However, as interest rates do climb back up to normal interest rates, the bank option, the cash option will be more attractive and can make more sense as a big component of your overall retirement plan. So a lot of these different investments that you might want to incorporate within your retirement are very cyclical.
Okay, so people watching are probably saying, okay, do I have too much in the bank? Do I not have enough in bonds or stocks? I mean, I'm guessing that's a question a lot of people watching have. What should they do?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. What you need to do is do the analysis and say, and this is one of the important elements of doing the plan, doing your retirement plan, is here's where you are. Here's what you're trying to accomplish. Now, from an investment portfolio standpoint, what is it going to take to accomplish that and still hurdle these obstacles that inevitably we're going to face? Because we can't control the stock market. We can't control the bond market. We can't control the interest rates. But what you can control is the type of portfolio that you construct and the type of income you receive from that portfolio, and make sure it's independent, the income is independent of what these types of markets and interest rates are doing.
Okay, so we take your questions right here on this show and we try to get them answered. We call it the Ask Our Advisor segment. So there's a number on your screen, and if you have a question on your mind, you could text your question to the number on the screen or send it in to us here at Merkle Retirement Planning. But here's one we received recently. It's Linda from Des Moines, and she asks, how should CDs fit into my retirement plan? We'll answer that question and much more when Retiring Today continues.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkle Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
Linda from Des Moines asks, how should CDs fit into my retirement plan? I'm here with Loren Merkle, Certified Financial Planner. Loren, what do you tell Linda?
Well, Linda, CDs can be an integral part of your retirement plan, but it also depends upon what phase of the economic cycle we're in. So let's just focus on today. Today, CDs can play a role. You just want to be careful so it doesn't play too big of a role, at least for most people. There are exceptions to everything, but ideally, nobody wants all of their eggs in one basket. So ideally, you do not want 100% or even 80% or 60% of your portfolio in CDs. What you do want to do is spread out your investments into different buckets that have different types of investments in them. Now, Linda, you might be saying, Loren, that sounds great, but I don't want to take any risk. I'm tired of the stock market. I'm tired of the bonds. That phase of my life is over. And that is what appeals to me about CDs, because they're FDIC insured, most of them are, and they're guaranteed. And that gives you a lot of solace going forward throughout the course of your retirement. We have people who don't want the risk that investments, that stocks and bonds bring. So if that's you, Linda, then what we do is we work with guaranteed investments. That doesn't have to be all CDs, because again, the same philosophy applies. We don't want all of our eggs in one basket, but we work through a whole list of other alternatives that also do not have the market risk, but it can provide you with maybe a higher yield opportunity than what some CDs do. But we still need the quick liquidity that some CDs can provide, and maybe some other cash instruments as well. So I hope that helps a little bit. The answer is that you need to make sure it's customized based on everything that you have going on in your retirement. CDs can play a role. We just have to be careful, and we don't want all of our eggs in one basket.
And Loren, you did a great job of defining one of the takeaways of today's show, diversify your investments. What else are the takeaways?
Well, your investment strategy needs to evolve as your life evolves. Life isn't static. Life changes. Life throws us curveballs. Your investment strategy needs to reflect at all times the amount of risk you feel comfortable with, the amount of risk that you need to take to accomplish your goals. And oftentimes throughout the course of one's retirement, the investment strategy that is directly applied, that is directly utilized, does change. So there needs to be a constant evaluation to say, what I'm doing today, does it work still? And will it work going long term? And if yes, great. If not, then we need to make some changes. The last takeaway is don't assume that bonds are your best strategy based on the generalities or these rules of thumb. So again, it comes back to the customization. We need to make sure we identify what you're trying to accomplish, where it is you're trying to go. If bonds play a role, what percentage of bonds do you want? What kind of bonds do you want? And what other types of investments work well with those bonds to make sure you're getting the best investment and retirement experience that you can.
Okay, so interest rates in your portfolio, I think, really touched on maybe two pieces of the five components of retirement, which is investment and income. But there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to retirement. That's why you and your team hold Passport to Retirement classes all over the central part of the state. Tell people about them.
We absolutely love to educate people about the nuances of retirement planning. Income and investment pieces are the pieces we talked about today, but there's so much more. There's the healthcare, the long-term care piece. There's the legacy planning. What do you want to have left? What do you want to have happen to what is left over of what it's taking you a lifetime to save when you're no longer around? And then we also have the tax planning component, which is the most overlooked component of the plan. There's just not a lot of tax planning that is done in this country. And the sooner we start with all 5 of these components, the investment piece, the long-term care, healthcare, tax planning, estate planning, the sooner we start getting that comprehensive plan in place, the better opportunity you're going to have to achieve your retirement dreams.
Okay, so those Passport to Retirement classes Loren mentioned, here's what you do. If you're interested in coming, there's a number on your screen right now. You can shoot us a text on that number, and a member of the Merkel Retirement Planning Team will reach out to you and get you signed up for a Passport to Retirement class. Or you can go to our website. That's on your screen as well. There are lots of places right on the website to sign up for Passport to Retirement classes. And Loren, who's a good fit for the Passport to Retirement class?
The best fit for the Passport to Retirement class are those who are within 10 years of retiring or already retired, because the topics that we cover at this class are directly applicable for those who are in that situation. So within 10 years of retiring or already retired.
And what do you think one of the biggest things people learn in the classes?
One of the biggest things people learn is that it is not as easy as what it once was. You approach that retirement time frame. You have a lifetime of savings, a lifetime of experience, but you've never gone through retirement before. You've never turned on Social Security before. You've never turned on your Medicare. You've never sifted through all the different options that are applicable with Social Security and Medicare. And you probably don't stay up late at night trying to identify loopholes within the tax law where you can spend more of the money that you receive and send less of it to Uncle Sam. So it's just the complexity of all the different laws and regulations around retirement.
And we'll continue to cover some of those complexities right here on this show. It's Retiring Today with Loren Merkle, and we thank you for watching.
You have worked for a long time. There are so many decisions to make about your retirement. How much income do you need? How not to run out of money? Now is your chance, and you get one shot to get it right. Attend Merkel Retirement Planning's Passport to Retirement. We will discuss how to create tax-free income, how to avoid the next market meltdown, and how to wring every dime out of Social Security. Your time is now. Classes fill quickly. Call or text today. Zero cost to attend.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
We hope you enjoy the show.
We'll see you next week.